Hey there, Eli coming at you today from OSA Coventry, again in front of our plant tank. Today I wanted to give you guys a quick video on some of the plants that are going to be some of the easiest for lower tech or beginner freshwater planted aquariums, and that are the epiphytes. So an epiphytic plant is a plant that is known to grow on top of surfaces rather than in the substrate. So I have a handful of different type of epiphytes here, and each of these plants are really well utilized in an aquarium for growing on top of driftwood, growing on top of rocks, or growing on top of the substrate in general. One of the great things about an epiphytic plant is a lot of their nutrition comes directly from the water column versus coming from the substrate. As you can see, a lot of these don't have the most developed roots like you see on a lot of your stem plants. And for this reason, these roots are really just used for anchoring them to those substrates on which they grow. Most of your Java ferns, I have 3 different types of Java fern here, are a great example of an epiphytic fern type of plant. These are really best utilized when you are scaping your aquarium. You can add a small drop of glue, such as the Seachem Flourish Glue or the Seachem Reef Glue, and tuck these right into your rocks, right onto your driftwood, and then within a few weeks' time, they generally will root themselves onto that substrate and grow directly from it. What makes that preferable is that you don't really need to invest in a well-suited substrate for your aquarium. So if you prefer the look of just straight sand or gravel, you can get away with that with plants like this because they are not feeding from those roots very often. They're not feeding directly from the substrate, and they actually benefit from a little less nutrients than some of your stem plants do and a lot less light. So almost all of your epiphytic plants don't need a ton of light. They can handle a lot lower lighting like you might get with some of your cheaper lighting options, and they're going to be slower but very steady growers in just about any aquarium condition. So these Java ferns are a great example of a lot of epiphytic plants. I do have some other types as well. This here is a bulbitis, which is an African water fern. This is another really good example of an epiphytic plant. This will get a lot larger than this if you let it do so, and this will grow again just right on top of the rock, right on top of the wood, and spread in that manner. And then one of the most stereotypical of your epiphytic plants in the aquarium hobby are Anubias. So this is an Anubias nana in front of me here, but Anubias come in a bunch of different shapes and sizes and types of color, and these are a really good option for growing on top of rocks or on your driftwood. Take up a lot of space once they do start to fill in, and they are again a very slow but steady grower, and they really don't need a ton of light or a ton of fertilizer additives to thrive in your aquarium. So as for care for most of your epiphytic plants, again, they are going to be a little hardier than most of your stem plants are. They don't need as much in the terms of fertilizer or in terms of macronutrients. However, they still do need the same things that all the rest of your plants do. So investing in a decent quality broad spectrum fertilizer is probably a good option, and fertilizing at least once or twice a week, in addition to regular water changes to keep the water clean and to introduce your trace elements back into the aquarium, are definitely worthwhile to making sure that these plants thrive long term. But like I mentioned earlier, most of these plants like indirect or lower intensity lighting, so they really don't need to be blasted with high intensity lighting, but these plants will do quite well with just about any sort of LED full spectrum lighting over the aquarium. Another great thing about most of your epiphytic plants too is they're a lot less palatable to certain types of fish. So sometimes you can get away with things like Anubias and Java fern a little more readily with your cichlid species that might be prone to nipping at stem plants. So that makes them a really good option if you have a tank that's a little more aggressive or a tank that has a few more herbivorous fish in it. And these plants usually are less palatable and a little bit sturdier, so they are much less prone to being nipped at by some of those fishes. So that makes them a good option for some of those aquariums. Or even just adding these to a smaller, low-tech aquarium that you want to keep something simple and easy on the desktop. These would be a great option for, say, a beta tank or one of your other small aquariums. Easy to scape with, you don't need that planted substrate, and they don't need nearly as much maintenance as a lot of your other plants do. So that about wraps it up for epiphytic plants. I hope you guys all found that pretty interesting. These tend to be a really hardy, easy, beginner-friendly plant for your aquariums, and they do work in just about any planted tank out there. Honestly, a very good bang for the buck. You can fill your tank in pretty easily. You offer a really good variety just with epiphytic plants if that's something you desire to do. As always, thank you all for tuning in. Feel free to leave me comments, questions, or suggestions in the comment section below. And as always, keep it fishy.